I mean, I think we kind of have to remember, I think sometimes we get really we get very easily frustrated with ourselves. Hi, Heather. Where sometimes there's just normal processes to a breakup. Like, even like a healthy one and a normal ending of a relationship, there's still just normal processes that happen, like reminiscing and thinking of the good times and, them randomly popping into our head, or, we do something that we used to do with them and we think about them. Like, all that stuff is normal, and that would happen with any breakup. But the difference between a normal breakup and then something like this is, like, even if I have a thought that comes into my brain of, like, I wonder what he's up to, I can't explore that thought like I would be able to with a normal breakup. So, like, a normal breakup, if I thought about one of my exes, like, oh, I wonder what they're up to these days, I could get on Facebook and Instagram, check it out, see, like, oh, they're married now, they've got kids, blah, blah, good for them, like, and be able to move on with my day. I don't have the privilege of doing that with my narcissistic ex. The actual thought of, oh, I wonder what he's up to these days, that's normal, and that's typical for a breakup. But how I respond to that has to be catered to the fact that he was a narcissistic ex, if that makes sense. So I say all of that just so that way we know we don't have to get mad every time that they pop into our brain, and we don't have to judge ourselves if we reminisce and all that stuff. That's just part of normal breakups and just breakups in general. But it's just how we respond to them, knowing that if we're not careful, we can get into this, like, rabbit hole rumination. Hey, I hope you're well. I wanted to say thank you for the glow up after narcissist video. I stitched it. Oh, I think I saw that. I'm 90% positive I saw it. If not, I'll go back and look at it, but it's true. After narcissist glow up is the best. And I love hearing those stories. I have the hardest time, like a drug, not looking at his social media and stuff. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because the way that I handled getting over the ruminating and the obsessive thinking cycle is I literally treated it like an addiction. Like, I gave it that same level of tenacity, that same level of respect. And what I mean by is respecting it in the sense that it's not going to go away by itself. I gave it that same level of discipline as I would to break an addiction. Now, I don't have a history of addictions, like, praise God for that, but I do have family members that have gone through that, and so I've seen what that looks like. And at one point in time, I was literally saying the Serenity Prayer. Like, that's how seriously I was taking this, because it really what's going on, and the reason why we feel very out of control when it comes to those kind of things is because I've said this before, but the brain takes the path of least resistance. So if you think about it, like, during the relationship, we're constantly in a state of rumination. It's just a different form of it. It's, how do I make this relationship work? It's walking on eggshells. It's, are they lying to me? And I'm pretty sure they're lying to me, but do I want to pursue this lie? And blah, blah, blah. And it's just a different form of obsessively thinking about the relationship. And that's kind of why I personally like to call the rumination cycle the obsessive thinking cycle, because I think it describes it better. And it helps us to understand why it even happens, because it's happening the entire time we're in the relationship, and it's just simply transferring after it. Well, in order to redirect, like, our neural pathways and the things that are going on in our brains, we have to be super disciplined about it. And that's why it doesn't happen just overnight, and that's why it doesn't have to take forever, because I think it's more about the work that you do, but I also, coupled with time, but time by itself is not going to get rid of it, in my opinion. And it took me about 6 weeks to break that cycle completely. And I was doing discipline work every single day for those 6 weeks. So again, I'm glad you said that, because I think we all kind of feel that, and it really does kind of feel like that. After 22 years of marriage, how do I find myself again? Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I'm really sorry for your experience, and especially that lasted as long as it did. And I would just take this opportunity to think about what you want out of life. Like, you have this opportunity now to reclaim your life for yourself, by yourself, and no one else. Yeah, I mean, obviously if you have kids and all that, but there's a quote by J.K. Rowling's, and she's referencing to when she wrote the Harry Potter series, but she said that rock bottom was the solid foundation in which she rebuilt her life. And I really adopted that quote as like almost like a mantra for me, because I felt like I had hit rock bottom when I left my narcissist. And so I would just encourage you to kind of adopt that same mindset with it, to not be so wrapped up on the fact that it was 22 years with them. It's, at least I got out. Some people never do. I'm grateful to myself that I got out. Even if I wish I had gotten out sooner, at least I got out now. Now what do I want to do? And go and reclaim your life. And just take it step by step. Was Seth the dream? I was on his live earlier today. So one tip that I give a lot of my clients, and honestly, like, this is something, like, if you guys are ever interested in coaching or anything like that, I have a lot of options. They're all on my link tree, but I'll give you guys just one little tip that I usually only do on coaching, but I think it's just good to hear. This week, think of one thing, like one activity that you used to enjoy that maybe you either haven't been able to do for a long time, or maybe there's a negative connotation with it because of your ex, or just something that you used to enjoy, and maybe you just haven't done it because you just haven't made a priority to do it. And go and do that. Like, let's say that if you used to really love cooking, but now you don't, it's almost like a trigger for you, because every time you used to cook for your ex, they criticized it, or it turned into a fight or whatever. Start to reclaim that slowly but surely. Like, get on Pinterest and find a recipe that you've literally never done before, and just make that just for you. Or if you have kids, make it just for you and just your kids. And that's how you slowly start to reclaim activities and reclaiming your life piece by piece. And that's a lot of what I do in the coaching calls. Is we actually spend a short amount of time talking about the ex, and mainly that amount of time is in order to break the cognitive dissonance and to break the dissociation of kind of what happened to us, because we do have to go through that process. And the rest of it is really about, like, just reclaiming and about redefining self-care and about how do I stop the rumination and doing this day by day, this step by step work. But give that a shot, and and really any of us can do that, because sometimes we just let life get busy and we just forget to take care of ourselves and just do things that are leisurely, that we just enjoy, that we just lose ourselves in, and just kind of refill our cup. So give that a shot. I'm catching up on comments, so forgive my pause. Is this fight? Oh, wow! Did y'all see that? My language part of my brain just stopped working. I was discarded 5 months ago. I'm just sitting alone in my truth and learning to give myself grace. Yes, the theme, my mantra when it comes to when I work with people one-on-one is always give yourself more grace than you do judgment. That is literally it. I went no contact straight away as I was escorted by the police. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Well, good for you though for going no contact right away, because y'all may not know this, but part of my story is I didn't go no contact for 4.5 months after the breakup. I was too busy playing nice. So good for you for that. And again, I'm very sorry about your experience. Thank you for doing this live. Well, thank you for being on it, Sherry. Katie said, totally love you. You're amazing. Thank you. Mirror work. I think I've heard of mirror work, but I'm not, well, there's several different types. I also am in OT school, so I have a different definition of mirror work in my brain too sometimes. have been giving myself more grace in the last 2 months after being discarded. You really do. Like, you have to... The worst thing that we can do is to judge ourselves and to beat ourselves up. Like, we're allowed to take... Here's the deal. Okay, here's the talk with Trey. We are allowed to take... We should take accountability for the decisions and the choices that we made. But we can take accountability for those decisions and choices without judging ourselves for them. Because the worst thing that we can do is be looking back on this and reminiscing it in a way where we're just like, I was so freaking stupid, or I was such an idiot, or I can't believe I did this, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know about you, but the last person that really called me stupid was my narcissistic ex. So when we get to the point where we're talking to ourselves the way that our ex used to talk to us, then that's where we're not being healthy and we're not being gracious to ourselves. We have to be able to look back on our situation, and instead of saying things like, I was so stupid, no, I was masterfully manipulated. And yes, I made choices and decisions that I knew deep down weren't right, but I was also trauma bonded. I was manipulated. I wanted to see the good. I did see the good in them. I really thought if I loved them hard enough that things would turn out better. Or I wanted to do everything I could to keep my family together. These kind of statements, that's not being stupid. You're not stupid for wanting to try to keep your family together. You're not stupid for seeing the best in people. Might mean that you need to work on some boundaries, but it doesn't mean that you're stupid. And that's the big difference on looking back on yourself out of judgment versus grace. And my rule of thumb is, if I would not say this to my children, I should not say it to myself either. That's just when I need to get my self-talk in check. That's kind of like my little gold standard that I think of. If I wouldn't say it to my kids, I shouldn't say it to me. I always forget that I can do this. Sorry, I'm like scrolling through it in my normal page and it makes the writing like really tiny, but I forget if I swipe left, the comments are like so much bigger and like, oh, I can actually see this. I was called worthless all the time. Oh, God, I'm sorry. It took me 5 years to understand what a lie it was. Yeah, it does. It takes some time to, like, reprogram. And it takes some time to, like, figure out what lies that we've believed over the years and start to try to dismiss these lies and start to reclaim the truth. It's a hard process. And, again, it does take time. But it's super, super important. How do I show myself grace? I think first and foremost, like I was mentioning earlier, is to watch your self-talk and to not be very, very conscious about how you're speaking to yourself. So if you are saying things again to yourself like, oh, I was so stupid, or I'm such an idiot for doing this and blah, 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 like that's not helping. Like that's not being gracious to yourself. Like if anything, that's just beating yourself up, and that's just talking to yourself the way that they used to talk to you. So working on that. And again, just kind of understanding, like even with the self-talk thing, like when we start crossing over into the area of when we're getting mad at ourselves, I think that there's a fine line between I'm allowed to be disappointed in the fact that I allowed this person. I'm allowed to be, I allow myself to feel the dad guilt that I've had. I'm allowed to be frustrated and all of that kind of stuff. But when I continually say this thing over and over and over again, like, you were so stupid for doing this, blah, 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 and I'm like dwelling in that thought, then that's where we're kind of beating ourselves up. Being gracious towards yourself is when you have that thought, like, I have this guilt of, I let this monster into my kid's life. Well, at the same time, being gracious to myself is, well, I didn't know he was a monster. If I had known that he was, I would have never let him in my kid's life. The fact of the matter is, he was lying to me from day one. The fact of the matter is, I was being manipulated from day one. So, yeah, it sucks that this happened. And yes, there were choices and decisions that I made because there was red flags that I saw that I ignored. but I also understand why I ignored those red flags. My life was in complete chaos, and the love bombing was very intoxicating. I didn't have sorry guys, my allergies are bugging me today. I didn't have the self-worth that I have now. Here's the mistake that we make. I should have said this earlier. What we tend to do when we're beating ourselves up is we are looking at our past self, and we are holding our past self to the standards and the knowledge that the present self has. And we cannot do that. We did not know back then what we know now. So when we look back on ourselves and we try to hold our past self to the current standards that we have, you will always, always be more frustrated with yourself than you will be gracious towards yourself. You have to remember you did not know back then what you know now. And that's really, really key. So all that to wrap up in that one sentence. The love bombing is very contagious, and it's very intoxicating, because I've always very much struggled with self-worth, and I've very much so struggled with my body image and just my own confidence and all of that. So when you are in this position where you aren't getting your own inner self-worth and inner self-value, then naturally you're just getting it from other people, and I think I made a YouTube video, which, by the way, if you guys aren't following me on YouTube, go to my link tree and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I post certain videos on YouTube that I don't post on any other platform. And I posted a video on there not long ago where I talked about, oh my god, I just lost my train of thought. Did y'all see it? Did y'all just see it flutter out of my brain? Because I felt it. I felt it go. Oh my god, what was I talking about? I distracted myself with the YouTube thing. Oh, I said that me and my ex were a match made in toxic heaven, because I have these people-pleasing tendencies, and he has the narcissistic tendencies. So people pleasers, they want to give, and narcissistic tendencies, they want to take. So I'll be honest, I think that the people-pleasing tendencies is something that I will struggle with on a different level for the most part for a while. Maybe forever, I don't know. But I know it's definitely a lot better now than it was back then. I think I'm naturally just a very empathetic kind of person. What I'm going to school for is literally to help people. And there's nothing, and I don't want to lose that trait from myself, especially because of what somebody else did. So I think that's also very important too, is, when it comes to reclaiming your life and everything, understand this person did not break you. They may have deeply wounded you, but they didn't break you, and only you can let them break you. And what I mean by that is, you allow someone to break you by saying, I've always been very trusting for people, I've always wanted to help people have better lives, but because this person screwed me over, I'm never doing that again. Well, that's them changing you, that's them breaking you, as opposed to being you know what? I let this value that I have, which is to help other people, outweigh my own self-worth and outweigh what I deserve and outweigh my basic needs. So I'm not going to give this part of myself up anymore. I'm still going to care about people. I'm still going to want to help people to become better, but I'm not going to do it at my own expense anymore. At some point I have to draw the line, and I just need to learn where to draw that line. That's learning from the past, but not letting the past change who we are to the core. And that's the very big difference of I'm deeply wounded versus they broke me. I think there is an element sometimes where we start saying to ourselves too much, they broke me, and we internalize that to let it change. Because I used to say that. Especially after I found out that he cheated on me. I was he broke me, and that was my narrative for a little while. And my therapist was just he did not break you. He's not that powerful. He's not that strong. And the reason why I know he didn't break you is because you're here in therapy and you're trying to get better and you're doing that. Those aren't signs of a broken person. That's just a sign of a person that's deeply wounded. So I had to start changing that narrative and myself too. This whole thing is very messy. And then when you're in my position and you finally get to the point where you're completely indifferent about my ex and all that, helping other people get through that. And now I've like created space for like all my inner child stuff to start popping its ugly head up. So that's super fun. The healing just never stops. So annoying. Oh, that's so cool. You have poetry books. Fun fact, I won a poetry writing contest when I was like a sophomore in high school. I have not written poetry properly since then, but hey, it was an award. Yes, healing is just nonstop. They're always, and you know what, and I think that's why that's what people mean, you know, when they say that healing is linear. Like, I think, I'll be honest, I'm in this niche, and I think one thing that we don't do super great is we throw a lot of terms out there. But what I'm trying to start doing on like my content is I'm trying to start breaking down what a lot of these terms really mean and use the examples, because it's kind of like when I'm finding out just through talking to people like on lives or my coaching calls or comments or whatever, is a lot of people have heard these terms like cognitive dissonance, or they've heard healing is linear, or they've heard dissociation, or they've heard, you know, euphoric recall. Like, we've heard all these terms, but it's kind of like, well, I kind of understand, but not really. And so I'm kind of trying to make some of my content do that a little bit more. Which, by the way, like, shameless plug, whenever you guys see me, I'm just going to be honest with y'all, TikTok and I are arguing. It's really been like not pushing my videos at all for like the last like 2 weeks. So if you guys ever see my videos on your FYP, like, please like comment, like, and share them, because I'm trying to like get my algorithm back on track. It's been a hot mess for like literally like 2 weeks. So shameless plug, shameless request. I never ask for that stuff, but it's starting to get frustrating. So that's why I have friends to encourage me and just being like, it's not, and at the end of the day, I know it's not all about all of that, but like, you know, when you're out here like trying to help people and you're out here trying to educate, and it's like TikTok's blocking you, but they're pushing videos of people that are just half naked, it's really frustrating. The algorithm really is all over the place. And it's like it'll be like I'll finally kind of start to like get it back on track, and then like bam, it's like gone, like you know, and I'm back to like I can't even get over 300 views again. It's just weird. They change it a lot, and I've had several people tell me that, like, they change their algorithm all the time. I always see your videos, probably because I interact a lot. Well, I'm glad you see them. That makes sense. That makes me feel good. And yeah, that's kind of why I'm saying, like, if you guys see me pop up, like, interact with the video for me, just because that'll help continue me coming onto y'all's pages. So, and I'm trying to do different things too. Like, I stopped using hashtags for a little bit, and I've changed my hashtags. Like, I'm like, you know what, TikTok, if you're gonna play games with me, I'm gonna play games with you. So whatever. Hi, Miss Debbie. You do. I see your comments all the time. I don't always take the time. I don't have the time is really the better way to say it, to respond to comments all the time, but I do see your comments a lot. So that's much appreciated. Always know, like, hey. Sorry, I just realized that my puppy chewed something that she was not supposed to. Oh, it's a good thing she's cute. I'm in grad school full time. I've got 3 kids, and I do this. So I'm super busy. So the one thing that I'm trying to get better at is, like, my engaging a little bit more with content and stuff, and also doing lives. Because I can, like, sit here for an hour and, like, talk to you guys, and that helps. My very first job ever was a vet tech. I used to want to be a veterinarian. And then I took my first chemistry class, and I was like, nope, never mind. TikTok is testing a lot of things at the moment. Well, that would make sense. I learned a lot from you, Michelle, or learned about you from Ro, Michelle, Dylan, and Debbie. Oh, that's awesome. Those are great, all of those great people. It's so good that I didn't become a vet. Oh, Kim, that was okay, so I was still considered like pre-health because I wanted to get into occupational therapy. That's what I'm in school for right now. And so it's still like in the health world. But most of my friends were actually pre-med, and every time, like, oh my god, they were miserable during OChem. I barely made it through Gen Chem with a C, and I was like an A student in high school. Like, that class, like, ugh, it's awful. And then I ended up not even needing it for occupational therapy school. Just like, that's ridiculous. I'm a teaching assistant, work with loads of children from families affected by abuse. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. What fulfilling work. Like, seriously, that's really, well, it's not cool that they're in that situation, but it's cool you get to be an impact in their life. Thank you for your content. It helps us not feel so alone. Well, you're very welcome. Like, it truly is my pleasure. And honestly, like, that's exactly why I do it. Again, y'all may not know this, but during like my healing journey, I didn't have this. Like, I didn't have TikTok. I was on Instagram, but I wasn't in this whole like niche. Like, I really barely even knew. I didn't even know what narcissism was until about 6 weeks after I kicked my ex out. And everything, I tell people this on my coaching calls, everything that I'm walking you through and I'm coaching you through, like, this is literally stuff that I just made up on my own. Like, I was so desperate to just feel normal again, and I was so desperate to just reclaim my life and to get control back. I was so desperate that I tried anything. Like, I was going to therapy once a week consistently, even if I couldn't afford it. I was going to therapy. And she was very supportive in that she actually acknowledged that, like, narcissism existed. Like, she was the first person to actually use the term really with me. But again, like, we focused more on kind of like what was going on to allow me to accept this behavior from him and to accept it for so long. But I didn't have a coach. Like, I was my own coach, really. Like, I just tried everything. Half of it didn't work and half of it did. So, like, that's what I based my coaching off of, was just all the stuff that I was doing on a day-to-day basis to just, again, just reclaim, feel normal, but also normal isn't, changes, which is a good thing. Because if you go back to normal, you're essentially going back to what was your normal. And I don't know about y'all, I was not interested in that. So a lot of it's actually redefining what you want normal to be, which is pretty cool because you're in control of that. I had nothing and nobody. I wasn't even allowed a cell phone. You know what? Honestly, I shouldn't have been allowed a cell phone. That would have saved me a hell of a lot of heartache and a headache. So you might have stumbled on something there, Debbie. Just don't have a cell phone. Can't get on social media. Can't call them. That's actually probably a good idea. Hi, Brittany. Yeah, I don't go live very often. I'm trying to go live a little bit more because it's just kind of one of those things I get in my head about going live, because I'm like, I don't know what I want to talk about. I don't know what I want to do. And so I just like get busy and I'll do other things, and then it's like, oh, it's late, nobody's gonna be on anyways, and like I will like sabotage myself from going live because I do feel awkward on it sometimes, because like if people aren't commenting and asking me questions, then I like just kind of like sit here like what are we talking about, y'all? So I'm starting to get a little bit better about, oh, thanks, Debbie. I'm starting to get a little bit better about going live, so why do I keep doing that? Okay. How do we find you on YouTube? So if you go to my profile, there's a link tree in my bio, and there's a tab on there that will take you straight to my YouTube. It's also the same username as this one, so it's I was like yo_Trey. But the easiest way, just go to my profile, click the link tree, and a couple of tabs down, it'll have a link straight to my YouTube. And so yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed and following my YouTube, please make sure that you do that, because there's a whole slew of content that's strictly just for YouTube. It's like longer videos where I break down some of these terms that we talk about a lot. I talk about my story a little bit more, you know, because in YouTube you can post as long as you want to. Thanks, Brittany. So you can post as long as you want to. So I have just some videos that go into a lot more depth about some of the stuff that we talk about. So if you guys aren't subscribed to that, please make sure that you do that. I only went to therapy 2 years ago. The first 8 years I was on my own reading and researching. Yeah, and that's the thing, like even right now, like I just have to kind of prioritize my spending because I'm in grad school, so I can't work full-time or anything. So I'm grateful for that I had therapy as long as I did. But right now, like, I check in with my therapist when I, like, really need to, for the most part. Like, I use this community, and I use, like, doing my own research and doing my own reading, like you said. And I just keep up with, like, that whole wellness well practice that I did to kind of break the rumination and all that stuff. So, yeah. It is very, very helpful, but you can learn a lot on your own, too. There's so many resources out there. My ex was/is buried, but he said he was divorced. But he said he was divorced? And at first I wanted to reach out to her and didn't. So it's funny. When I left my ex, he was married previously too. And I was this close to contacting his ex-husband because I was like, I don't know if anything that this person said about his previous marriage was right or true, because he said that his ex-husband was abusive and his ex-husband was the cheater and all this and all that. And I was like, was any of that true, you know, or was it just one of those situations like there was like co-abuse going on or something? And I did the same thing. I ultimately decided not to reach out to them because I just honestly, I sat down and asked myself this question of what is the best possible scenario that can come out of that, you know? And really what it was validation and just knowing the truth. But like the alternative to that was it opened up the door to so much potential drama that I just did not want to deal with. What is your suggestion in moments of missing them? I know there is nothing to miss, so why do we? That is a very good question, and I get this question a lot. So, one suggestion that I've made quite a bit is actually, okay, you get a little preview to a video that is in my drafts. I just have not posted it yet. So this was an exercise that I did whenever I missed my ex, and it was like I had to do it one time and I never really had to do it again. And the first thing that I asked myself, I asked myself 3 different questions. I pulled out my journal, I was ready to go, because I was doing the same thing. I was like, why do I miss this person? They were terrible. You know, like, why am I feeling this way? And it was very frustrating. So the first question that I asked myself was, what am I missing in this moment? And I wrote it down, and it was things like I miss cuddling with them at night. I miss having someone to talk to when I got home from work, and you know, there was just some random things, honestly, that I missed. My next question that I asked myself was, did they give me what I needed in these areas? So, for example, when it came to like having someone to talk to after I came home, well, did he give me what I needed in those areas? And I had to be honest with myself. I was like, well, no, not really, because every time that we were talking about my day, he would just spin it around into him and like what happened at his job or whatever. Or he would have this look on his face of like, I knew he was just waiting for me to stop talking so he could take over the conversation again. When it came to cuddling at night, like, yeah, he was good at that, but you know what? So is my cat, so that really doesn't speak much for his skills. And then the last question that I asked myself was, what do I not miss about him? And that list was pretty dang long, and by the time I wrote that list, I was over it. So you can give that a shot. I'm in grad school for occupational therapy. I'm getting my doctorate in that. Community is a lifesaver. Definitely way better than my therapist. The community really is, because the community understands what you're going through. Just subscribe to your YouTube. Yay! Yeah, I didn't want to deal with drama, and also I watch a lot of true crime. That's funny. You're welcome. Definitely give that. Like I said, I only had to do that practice like one time, and that was it for me. I never really had to do it after that. And that way, sorry, I didn't really finish. So after doing that exercise, what I realized was I didn't really miss him. I just missed having a partner. I missed having a companion. And again, there's nothing wrong with having that feeling, but it's so important for us, instead of like getting wrapped up and being frustrated with our feelings, we need to understand them. So it's very easy for us to like, because it's almost kind of like when we resist something, it's kind of like we go back into like that childhood mentality of like when we tell ourselves we're not allowed to do or feel something, it almost makes it worse. Like you tell a kid like, don't get a cookie out of the cookie jar. Well, what do? They grab a chair and they have their hand in the cookie jar because we told them not to, right? Like that's just how kids operate. Well, when I understood why I missed him, it wasn't that I missed him, I just missed having a relationship that allowed me to kind of have that self-control again, to where it's like, okay, well, I don't really miss him, so I'm not going to text him, I'm not going to unblock him or anything, because I don't miss him, I just miss having a partner, and that's okay. I will find one when I'm ready, but not right now. I'm allowed to miss the partner. So again, instead of trying to like shove this off, like, well, I shouldn't miss him, like he was garbage and he was this and he was that, like why are you and we get this kind of like judgmental tone to ourselves. It's like our emotions are going to come up and they are going to make themselves present until we deal with them. That's just the unfortunate fact. So when we continue to kind of shove this emotion off, eventually it's going to get to the point where like the bottle lid pops and now we're texting them and we broke our no contact and all of this, and now we're mad that we broke our no contact, and then it just gets like really, really messy. So instead, just like take a breath and ask, okay, why am I feeling this way? And do that for everything, like guilt, frustration, anger, like all that stuff. Where is this coming from? And it'll allow you to process it a lot more. Make sure I didn't miss any comments. We missed feeling love and companionship, not the person. Yes, like I think that you're exactly right. And then what's funny is you kind of realize like you know, we look back on certain things, and even when we thought that they were good times, we realize like, no, just kidding, they really weren't that great. You know, and so then what I've kind of realized was that I was grieving the loss of like who I thought that they were. I was grieving the parts of myself that I had let kind of be compromised for this individual. Like, you know, you grieve a lot of intangible things too. So yes, I did a list like that and realized that he was so not good for me. Exactly. Another suggestion, oh wait, I think someone just said it. I wrote the best letter to him that got everything out and then I burned it in my fire pit. It's so funny. I was literally just about to say. Another exercise my therapist recommended that I didn't honestly end up doing, but a lot of people have tried it, is to write a letter to your ex. Not one that you really intend on sending, because honestly, that's not going to do any good, but write a letter of, if I had the opportunity to say what I wanted to say to them, what would I do it? What would I say? And write it all down and go from that. And then just get rid of it. Shred it, burn it. I'm kind of a pyro. I take my notes out of the end of every semester and I take them to a bonfire and burn them, just to release them. Like, you're gone. Hi, fiance. I grieve the person I fell in love with, but also know that person didn't exist. Yes, and I think that's what makes this grief so heavy, is because we're not just grieving that. We're not just grieving it, we're also having to accept the fact that it wasn't there and it was fake and it was a facade and all of that. So there's a lot to process this, and that's why I just encourage you guys, again, always give yourself more grace than you do judgment, because you are going through a lot and you are processing a lot and you're grieving a lot, and a lot of what you are grieving is intangible. So you have to just give yourself time to just go through all the things that it requires of this. Okay, guys, I have about 15 minutes or so, and then I need to start cooking dinner. So any other questions, comments, concerns, little shameless plug again. If you guys, I know I talked about it, but if you guys have not, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. The link to that is in the link tree in my bio. All my coaching services are in the link tree in my bio as well. I just launched a 5-day texting support thing, so where it's like essentially you have 24-hour access to text or email me. That's a new one that I just started. I have validation calls if you just need like a quick 45 minutes just to like feel validated or ask like specific questions and all that. There's that option, so it doesn't have to be like a consistent coaching thing too. My book, The Wellnessville Journal. If you guys are ever interested in the work or that I did to break my trauma bond or to get out of the rumination, or if you're having a hard time coming up with like this discipline work that you need to do, the Wellnessville Journal is the book that I wrote, and that is literally the exact work that I did during that 6 weeks to get over my trauma bond and to break out of rumination. Like literally to a T. I even have pictures in that book of like what I did. So check that out as well. There's an Amazon link for it if you like paper copy, and then there's also a PDF version too. I love your video about the victim's public persona. Oh, thank you. It's so on point to how I operate. You're very welcome. I'm glad. Well, I'm sad it resonated with you because that means we have similar experiences, but I appreciate the fact that it was made you feel more understood. So I appreciate that a lot. 6 days away from 1 year no contact. Oh my God, that's exciting. Did you celebrate your 1 year no contact? Honestly, I didn't. I didn't. But that was mainly just because, like, I celebrated more of the day that I kicked him out. But to be honest with you, I think my indifference is just so high up there. Like, I'm so high on the indifference scale that it's just kind of like, I don't remember. Like, I really had to think the other day, and I did. I already had my fiance too at that point. That's a good point, babe. I was already dating. We were already living together. Yeah, we were already living together at that point. Like, I had started grad school, like, all this kind of stuff. So, like, the month that would have happened would have been, I remember it's in October. I couldn't tell you the actual day. I was probably going through midterms, actually. That's probably why. But, with that said, still celebrate it. It's still worth celebrating. Me, I honestly, like, what happens with me is I will have so much that's going on into my life where I kind of, like, lose track of what day it is. Like, that's honestly, like, I have to put reminders in my phone of when people's birthdays are, because I remember the birth date, but I won't click with the fact, like, oh, today's their birthday, unless, like, I have a reminder in my phone. But I just don't. I think I just do. And I'm not against it. Like, if people, like, if you want to celebrate those things, I am all about it. Like, again, your healing journey does not have to look exactly like mine did. Mine, you know, I had to think really hard what his birthday was, even at one point in time. Like, my indifference level is just that high to where it's like, I don't even just had to think about, like, when we started dating too. Like, I don't keep track of that stuff anymore. But again, everybody's way of processing and dealing is different. So, just because I didn't celebrate it doesn't mean that you don't have to. I say go for it. Throw a damn party. Throw a party and cook. Use all decorations of, like, their, like, least favorite color. cook the food that they hated, wear the outfit they always said you could never wear the color lipstick they said that you couldn't wear. Like, just do it all. Do it all, hunty. Oh, another thing. So we don't have a lot of the specific details out for this yet. But there is a group of us, a group of the Narc Avengers, that are doing a live meet and greet on October 15th in Austin, Texas. And I will be there. So if you guys are able to get to Austin that weekend, come hang out with us. There's a total of 10 of us. We're actually going to be doing like a live there. Again, I don't have all the details. I'm just going to tell you like the idea that we have going on. We're going to be doing in-person one-on-ones. We're going to be doing like live panel Q&A. There's just going to be a hangout, meet and greet time. It's going to be a super cool event. So again, that's going to be in Austin, Texas. All the details are going to be announced probably within the next week or two. But the date is for sure. City is for sure. October 15th in Austin, Texas. I will be there, plus 9 other of my favorite co-creators. So please come and hang out with us if you're able to. We would love to meet you. So that's going to be super cool. My friend lives there. I may have to see. You should totally come crash, Debbie. There's going to be 10 of us, so it's going to be really good. What's the best way to stop the smear campaign? Okay. So, Steph, I'm going to be just 100% honest with you. You cannot. Like, you can't stop the smear campaign. And the reason why I say that is because I tried. That's why I stayed in contact with my ex for 4.5 months after I left, because I was desperately trying to not give them a reason to have a smear campaign. And what I realized was through a mutual friend, one was already happening. It just was. Like, I was being nice. I was talking to them. Like, I allowed them to stay on my phone plan for months. I allowed them to still have stuff in my storage unit for months. Well, that was the thing that we shared. But, he wouldn't get his mail, forward his mail away from my house. So he was still having to, he was still driving by and picking up his mail. And I wasn't being assertive enough and firm enough to, get him off these things. I was kind of like, hey, have you done this yet? And then 4 weeks later, hey, have you done this yet? And I was doing that so I didn't give him a reason to talk bad about me. Well, lo and behold, he was telling people that I was a drunk, that I never took care of my kids, that I never worked, he had to pay for everything, just total ridiculous things. And I just had this light bulb moment where I was just like, no matter what I do, no matter how nice I am, no matter how not nice I am, I can't stop this. I cannot avoid him demonizing me. And it was a very important light bulb moment for me. And that's probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, And I was also again, 6 weeks of doing my wellness wheel and all that stuff. But I had that realization during that 6 weeks because I journaled about it. That's why I journaled. I can look back and put all the timelines together. And I was just like, no matter what I do, he's going to do this. So why am I allowing myself to continue to talk to an individual and invite them in my life? Even if it's just virtually through text messages, I'm going to invite this person into my life that literally gives me a physical response in my body of anxiety, where my chest gets tight, my heart rate goes up, I feel my face getting flushed. Every time I speak to them, good or bad, I'm doing this to avoid something that they're going to do anyways. So unfortunately, you just can't. And I know that's probably not the answer that you want to hear, but again, I'm here to tell you the truth and what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. So I hope that kind of helps a little bit. Super cute top. Thanks. I am going to be at the Austin meet and greet. I'm actually very excited. So yeah, another reminder, October 15th, Austin meet and greet. There's going to be 10 creators in this niche. Mental illness will be there. Raw motivations will be there. I shouldn't have started this because I'm not going to remember who else is going to be there. How to Love a Battered Woman is going to be there. I'm 99.9% positive that Lisa Stronger Than Before is going to be there. Stan Coaching is going to be there. Carrie McAvoy is going to be there. oh my god, oh my gosh, I feel bad. I don't know her handle. Ashley's gonna be there. I will be there. My fiance will be there as well. Like, there's gonna be a lot of us there, and we're gonna be doing a live panel Q&A. There's going to be details that are going to go out about this, but I'm just kind of giving you a preview. There's going to be an opportunity for a live Q&A panel. I know it's going to be exclusive in some sort of way. I don't know how all that's going to work yet. There is just going to be a straight up open, like, meet and greet, take pictures, like all that kind of stuff, hang out. And then there's also going to be, there's some of us, most of us, not all of us, but some of us are doing like live, like in person one-on-ones. So you have the opportunity to, register for those too. So that will be in Austin, Texas on October 15th. I'm super, super excited. Lots of great people are going to be there. And I'm just personally really excited because I've been friends with a lot of these people for a while now at this point. I've never met them in person. So I'm pretty pumped. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I was actually born in San Antonio. We moved when I was 7, so I can't really say I'm from there, but I was born there, and I visited Austin a couple of times. But I've not, well, let me rephrase it this way. I've not visited Austin as an adult. So I've not experienced the fun side of Austin, so I'm kind of excited. Well, that's not true. I did go to Lake Travis when I was in college one time. That was pretty fun. That was actually really fun. Alright guys, so I'll give it like 2 more minutes to see if anybody has a pressing question. And then I gotta go start making my fajitas and my homemade salsa. It's like one of my favorite things to make. Any other last minute questions? Okay. I know there's a delay on the comments, so I don't want to cut it off too fast. But, okay guys, well, just in case, I'll start my outro. So yeah, just other little, like, housekeeping things. Look for the details for the meet and greet. My book, The Wellness Wheel, is on my Linktree. There's a copy in Amazon and a PDF copy, whichever one you'd prefer. Make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. There's exclusive content just on YouTube where it goes into a lot more depth about like my story, some of these terms like cognitive dissonance and all that kind of stuff. So it explains a lot more things in detail, so make sure you're subscribed to that. And last but not least, there is a live webinar that's going to be next month on August 18th. I gotta keep all these dates straight. It's entitled Why Can't I Just Leave? It's by Dr. Kristen Milstead, and it's really about 2 things. It's about, you know, why we get stuck in the relationship and also why we get stuck out of it with like the mental processes of not being able to like break free from rumination, all that kind of stuff, and why we feel like we can't emotionally leave from the relationship or why we can't physically leave the relationship. So that is, and the great thing about the webinar is even if you can't actually make the day and time, if you register for it, you will get a replay emailed to you, and the registration is cheaper than if you like waited and bought the replay from the platform later. So that's also going on. The link tree to all of this, with the exception of the meet and greet because those details aren't out yet, but the link tree to everything else, the webinar, my book, YouTube, all that jazz, is in the link tree and my bio. So I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'm actually going, okay, I'm going to say it so I can hold myself accountable. I'm going live on Instagram tomorrow night as well. So if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, make sure you're on there and you can come hang out with that live too. So y'all have a great evening. Enjoy your Friday night, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you on the FYP. Bye.